Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's Alicia Brasher here, Cosmic Gateway, and I'm so excited. We've got Valerie to come back again to have another cosmic conversation. There was so much beautiful feedback from everyone last time who thoroughly enjoyed our first recorded chat. So thank you for coming back, Valerie. And I have some questions in my mind of where I'd like to go, because I think last time we only just scratched the surface, really. But welcome. Thank you for coming back and having another chat. I
want to thank you, Alicia, for inviting me back. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to share more knowledge if I can with people.
Yes, and that's really, I think when I first connected with you, I thought, this was my wish, my hope. I was like, I would love to have, a couple of recorded conversations, not just for me, I mean, of course for me, but to share with everyone, because I just think so much stories, experiences, knowledge that you share, should be shared. And so I'm really grateful that that has come to fruition. Very, very grateful. Now, we didn't quite get into it last time, but I thought maybe we might have a bit of a chat about the Gosford glyphs, if we can maybe start there. My own personal curiosity, I've tried to go there a couple of years ago and I didn't quite get to the glyphs, but I am tentative planning to go there, in a month or so. So I guess for a little bit of backstory of people who don't know the Gosford glyphs, for international viewers or people who haven't heard it, we'll start with, where they're located. And if you could tell us the very interesting connections and some of the information that you've shared with me about the ancient past and what they represent to our history.
Yes, well, they've always been controversial, and that could be political, I'm not sure, or it could be science or something, I don't know. The thing is with us, and a lot of people, other people that go there, especially ones that with the raised consciousness, shall we say, and everybody's got it, but some are not consciously raised to the point that we can go. And so I actually came across it back in 1994, because that was the time I was holding the sacred Alcheringa Stone that belonged to the Indigenous people. And they said it came from the stars. And so when I sat with it, it filled me with this beautiful light. And I think I've said this, but it gave me a lot of knowledge and inside information that it was leading to something. And also Alcheringa himself, actually, it turned out as an ancestor, introduced himself and he asked if he could borrow my voice box, which I said yes, because it just felt right. And another layer of consciousness, I felt that I had agreed to all this, although I wasn't aware totally. Mm-hmm. It's only now in later years now that I've got, shall we say, the dots have all come together. And I think that's happening for a lot of people. So I don't think you have to be old. I think it's just this time.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think in the last 2 weeks, I've had that many dots joined together. I think my head's going to explode sometimes, but it's great. It's great.
Yes. And anyway, with this, with holding the sacred stone, I always knew I was to unwrap it, and it was really men's business, as understood in the Indigenous race. So unfortunately, this was intuitively. Nobody told me this, by the way. It was just, I'm getting messages from upstairs all the time. And so I was asked to write a diary and to have it published, which I did. And the following year, in 1995, which is now 25 years ago, I found myself, an Aboriginal man actually came to visit me. And I was quite nervous because I thought, oh dear, this, I've gone and broken something. I didn't know what I'd done. But he was very pleasant. He did come with a friend. And so it was a good meeting, a nice meeting. But I could sense he was aware and a bit concerned about something. So he asked me about the sacred stone. He knew about it. So knew I had it. And so I assured him that I'd never opened the parcel. It was wrapped in paper bark, which is off the paper bark tree, and wrapped with string and calico. And I said, and I was also aware it was men's business, really. And Alcheringa, and I understand it's called an Alcheringa Stone, which means messenger stone from the stars. And he said to me, I said to him rather, and this Alcheringa actually invited me, and he said would I allow him to borrow my voice back so that he could give messages through me, like a stone, actually. And so, sat back like this and said, "Oh, that's all right then." With a big grin on his face, and his eyes were really lovely. You know, everything about him was wonderful. He was so full of light and love, and you know, the universal love that I speak of, that people have, and it was coming from the heart. And so we actually went on to be very good friends, he and my husband. My husband used to joke about him being his black brother, and that was all, you know, it was always joking all the time.
Yeah.
And I have found the Indigenous people can really be funny, always joking all the time. So, but however, they've held on, particularly the Australian Aboriginal people, they've held on to the old ways and stayed living very close to nature. Well, they've tried to until the white man came and spoilt everything, made it difficult for them. And they were very strict about initiations and meditation, which they call dreaming, which is the same thing as the theta level of consciousness, which is the scientists give our that state of dreaming. It's just when the eyelids flutter.
Yeah. Yes.
And, you know, while they're asleep, and you know they're having images. And they people awaken them and ask, you know, and say, "Were you just dreaming?" "Yes, I was." And then from that, you go to a very deep sleep. Well, that's the time you're actually connecting to your soul consciousness. And so, and I'm just not sure now. You'll have to forgive me because I've had a bit of an accident and it's thrown me a bit. And I can't remember whether we talked about theta consciousness or not, and how easy it is actually to tap into.
I'm just trying to recall, because the end of the last one, it was a sort of a guided process to connect with like the oversoul.
Yes. Well, I have given it to you then, because it really is quite easy. And actually, all of us, everyone on earth has that ability, and everyone has a soul, so that it's got a consciousness, and you can communicate. Or it's more like a doorway that actually communicates with your oversoul, and that connects you to your God self. So I'm probably repeating things here. So you're asking about carry on. So the conversation when we met this Uncle Jerry, we'll call him, because he's left now, he died. We're very sad, we miss him very much so, although he contacts us through the birds sometimes. Quite wonderful. Other ways too. The spirit can really play games. Ancestors can really play games with you if they want to. So don't ever brush off anything, because you can be sure it's very real.
I agree. Yeah.
After we leave our earth body, it is very real, I can assure you. And there's many people that have had past, what can I have? What do they call it? Near-death experiences. Yeah. And they've sort of been there almost home or going another world, and then come back. Yeah. And so that helps people to really connect and realize too. But you can do that without having a near-death experience. So, and so getting back to carry on again, Jerry, we were talking about that, and he said, "Would you like me to take you?" Because I'd been asking about the Egyptian glyphs I heard were drawn on the walls. And so he did. He took us, and a few people he heard, so they ended up about 7 people going. And that was in 1995. And there had been a lot of, what can I say, research done about the glyphs that were drawn on these walls. But for us, we were all meditators, we're really mediums. So we actually had that gift of being a tapping into the raised consciousness of what it was all about. So, and Jerry also said, do you think Alcheringa will talk to us there? No. And I didn't hesitate. I said, yes, because he's already said to me he's going to talk to an Aboriginal elder. And so I think it must be you. So that's what happened. I didn't take the stone with me. By that time, it was easy to just call on Alcheringa, and he came. So he did talk to us, and that has been recorded. That's all on my website, and it's in books too. There's a lot more detail with all the stories. Yeah. And they've all been blessed too by the holy man in India. And so when people read something, it's something that connects to them, if it feels truth and right for them, it taps into giving them more knowledge about themselves, even though it's not written in a book. That makes sense, right?
It makes complete sense to me.
Yeah,
I love that.
Happens. And so I don't think it's any need to say that I'm on a mission, that obviously I've come here to do this work. And I wasn't born into this body. There's been an exchange with the souls. And so I've come from that place. And so is my husband, actually, my present husband. It was a different story another time. So getting back to Carry-On and the cliffs. And while we were there, we were having a look, and people were putting their hands on the rock and feeling the glyphs and seeing if it could feel the energy about it. And Alcheringa had said that the glyphs would mean many things to many people. So it would have many stories. So it's a bit like what I said, when something's been blessed, it can connect to your heart. And if you're open, you can hear another story. Mm-hmm. So, but for us, there was just 3 of us. Everybody had lunch, and it was a joyful day, a beautiful day. And we did actually go to a birthing rock, which is a picture in that Alcheringa book that we've published. And some of the women were prompted to lie in it, and I personally laid in it, and I had the memory of being a mother, but a star mother, and for the child to be born. Well, of course, they couldn't survive. The little ones from the star people could not survive in this atmosphere. And this was all coming from what we had been given at the end. I didn't, all this sort of we didn't understand it as it was happening, but it unfolded. Just like Alcheringa said, keys would be given, and they're still being given to many people and to us as well. And so anyway, we later, everybody packed up. It was time to go home, and our car wouldn't have stuck, because I went to get something out of the boot, slammed the boot down, and then, of course, what did I do? I'd slammed the keys inside the boot. Instead of giving me the keys, he took them away.
Goodness.
I thought, oh my God. And we were out in the middle of nowhere, and it was a long way to walk, because we'd driven quite a way along, further on another road from the cliffs. We were standing on what's called Whale Rock, and I have this drawing, ancient drawing by the Aboriginal people. The glyphs, by the way, are not Aboriginal people. The elders there would say they didn't draw them, but they knew about them. They know about them. And so they're not separating themselves from them at all. It's all part of their knowledge and understanding. Jerry asked me to put my hands out towards the water, which was further looking to Lion Rock. And as I did, I was overcome completely with this being who I had been at another time. When I say I had been, it's my soul over soul was doing this to me. So I'm just an aspect or a messenger, if you like. But we experienced being this star person, or I experienced the star woman, and she was absolutely horrified, suffering with shock, not understanding what had happened. And then at the same time, Jerry was having the same experience, and so was the other lady, Helen. So the 3 of us were having the experience at the same time of remembering being star people, and that we had been on this huge, huge, very advanced mothership. And its name was Rex Sagina, and a lot of people respond to that name.
It almost sends chills through me.
Yeah, it was destroyed, and so we were trying to get over. We're only getting bits and pieces of the story, shall we say, but we were feeling about the emotions and being so upset, and also feeling that we had been betrayed by God. We were doing God's work. We didn't understand why all this could happen, all that type of stuff. And and then the real reason that the ship was coming was because the people, what can I say, the cold-blooded people that had taken over the planet had agreed to leave, and there was going to be a ceremony, and that didn't happen. They were lying. They didn't mean what they said, and so we were caught. And so probably too trusting, we just really believed what they were saying because we didn't really know what lying was. And because we all communicate telepathically, by the way, sometimes when you say something, you can change it when it comes out the mouth.
Yes.
We all know that. So that's here in the human body. But as star people, we didn't expect them. So unfortunately, that's what happened. And so the mothership was attacked blow by blow, and it was disintegrating. I did have a dream at another time where I could see it exploding piece by piece. And that was before it actually started to get a lot more of the detail of the story, which is all written in this Alcheringa book, by the way. So
I need to get that one because now I'm so enthralled. I want to know all the details.
And in actual fact, this one is now in this part 2 of this book, the Star Lady book, because now I put everything in one book. So that's what's happened. There's a bit of a collector's item now. So I won't have too many of those left. But you can get them online, these other two, Star Lady and Alcheringa.
Yeah.
And
I will put all the details down the bottom because I had some people ask me. So if you're looking for all those books, all the details will be down the bottom.
Yeah, why I'm saying all this is I'm not really out to sell books. It's not that. It's just it's so much information.
Yes.
It's recorded and it does make a good read. I did have help writing this one, and there was all these people that kept coming to us after the event, after we went home. They heard about what happened. They said, I don't know why I'm ringing you, but I feel, and I say, well, I know exactly why you're ringing. So please come and we'll do some work and I'll show you some images. And they were getting spontaneous, at that time, they were getting spontaneous memories just by looking at the photos of the glyphs. So they didn't even have to go to the glyphs.
Wow.
They carry on, right? And that still happens. That still happens, actually.
So I'm not surprised.
It's an extraordinary book, really. And a lot of people have said they haven't understood why it hasn't been made a film yet. Well, that might come, I don't know, because Alcheringa himself, just in recent times, he's been talking about it at Uluru with a Cosmic Consciousness Conference that I've been invited to the last 3 years, and it'll be the 4th year, come this December.
Yes.
And why I'm saying that is because he has said to me that he has more to the story, that Uluru is an asteroid, and actually the Aboriginal, certainly the older ones, which a lot of them have died now, and I don't think it said so much, but they said, I get it mixed up, the Uluru came from the stars. And the different tribes have different stories, but there's still the same thing, same story, right? And so I didn't understand all that. When I worked, I was oblivious to all this, actually, which was a good thing in a way, because it just unfolded, but it was tying in all the time with the Australian Indigenous dreaming stories and the great knowledge they have about our creation and the evolution of our Earth planet. So they talk about it in a different way, but it's still the same story, the overview, same overview.
Yeah.
So Alcheringa has told me there's more to the story. So that's going to come out. And I'm working on it right now. And this is the image he put. I think I showed that before. It's the image that he put on my computer. And I find he's connected to our oversoul, because everything's androgynous when you go to the God self.
Yes.
And so, that's all that type of thing going on. So I'm really very close to him, more than I realised actually at first. Although he used to say in a lot of the messages he gave me that we were close, but I thought that just meant, just people, like-minded people, that sort of, and close friends, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's all part of the story, I suppose, and the reason why I've been asked to write about it and to talk about it and to actually, I don't know if anyone out there is interested in the story. I'd certainly like to talk about the possibility of a film.
I was just about to say, we're going to put this shout out right here, right now, because I know that I have some people who are in the film industry. So if anyone's watching this who may be a producer or interested in it, please contact me or Valerie and we can get talking. So we'll just put that out there.
Thank you, Lisa. The thing is, I have actually written a storyline, and I did go to a course at University in New South Wales, in Sydney rather, just for the summer course to see if I could learn how to write film scripts. Mm-hmm. But it's very, very complicated. And I realized, oh, no, I can perhaps write a storyline. Yep. So I really need a film script writer.
Well, actually, I have one, so we'll talk off the camera.
A few people have tried, but they start taking the story in a different way. And it's not ego for me. It's like I understand about working with people, and everybody's got a bit of a part to play, but the story needs to follow in the way it was given in the first place, because that's what captures people, regardless, And I've got a file that's really fat with all these people that are writing to me saying, that they connect to the story, and that this has been over 25 years, and even more. I've even given up printing off the emails now. But what I am saying, it's got, what can I say, value if they're thinking about a business. But it's also got value from the heart, because it helps you, once you deal with it and understand the full story, it makes it much easier, because it links in with the creation of the human race.
Yes.
And it is what can I say, the missing link that comes from the animal man, that we've got all those DNAs in us, and emotions, by the way, that also, it was my God. But we go from the animal man to the angelic, from the star people. And so they've raised consciousness, and they actually were the reason that the animal man, so we lost a lot of hair. Nothing wrong with hair, actually, but that's what happened, because star people from the Pleiades, because that's where they came from, was they were very tall. There's a picture here. Somebody tried to draw, and I thought, well, it's not quite the way we look, but certainly getting closer. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And they were about 7 or 9 feet tall. And I said, they should be taller. And he's trying to stretch them out. Then they started to look a bit strange. So I thought, well, we weren't strange. We actually knew and understood, and we're very human-like, actually. So they are our family. There's no doubt about that. And, of course, the evolution has gone through changes of the human since then, because that was something like nearly 1 million years ago. That's a long time.
Very long time, isn't it?
And, the scientists still talk about the Aboriginal Indigenous people here in Australia as 60,000 years. But no. It goes a long way back, further than that. And they've got these bones that date way back to millions of years. So, at some stage, they became man, and then another stage, they became human, which is light man. And that's to do with our soul, and also the physical aspect of us that's light. We have a light body. And that's important, because if we keep that strong, it helps the earth body to function well.
Yes. It's so important. I was having a conversation with a friend earlier, talking about, because I do a lot of energy work, and talking about physical ailments in the body. And I mean, you can attest to this, but, we can do whatever procedure on the physical, but if the energetic's not in, if it's got blockages, then it's not going to align. So it's so important to keep the energetic body clear as well as the physical body healthy. They work together. So.
Right. Yes, because our souls is carrying stories of various past lives that we've had on Earth, or if not there, could be on other planets and other worlds. There's layers of worlds, there's world by world by world. It's like a ladder, actually. Right?
Yes.
And so that's how it is. And then there's suns aligning. The Holy Man's been telling this for a long time. The suns are coming into alignment. They've been a little out of alignment a number of times. When, now I'll just stay with the fall of Atlantis. That was a bad one. When I say that, I mean it really, our planet almost died from that. And so our sun is actually coming back into alignment as the consciousness raises, other things heal that need to. It's actually interesting that our Earth human body is very like the solar system or the planet, or connection. It's quite extraordinary, really. And I don't know if people would sort of be able to relate to that or not, but it is quite, everything's connected. I think that's what I'm really trying to say.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think maybe to give a comparison, I think a lot of people will just get what you just said, but for those that don't, a visual comparison is like, sometimes I see the brain, when all the neurons fire, and you look at the brain, but you look at a cosmic sky and it's same, like it's got,
Yes,
so.
yes, that's right. Yes, constantly. It's not a good idea to argue vehemently about something, because everything's right in a way, except
I agree with you.
of course, you can't go breaking our what can I say, our society, cultural laws. We can't do that. But there's so much that is right, and there's a reason for it and a purpose too, actually.
Yes. So when you're talking about this sun alignment, do you want to talk, when you talk about this sun alignment with the planet, and do you want to talk a little bit more about that in depth? Is there any more to share?
I don't know. Can you hear that ringing? I'm sorry about this.
That's okay.
No, maybe not. No, I'll just have to do something about it. I don't know how to do it. Right. Hang on, I won't.
So we're talking about this alignment with the sun, and so I'm very curious, because obviously I get sort of my own little insights, but I would love to hear if you have anything more to share about the sun and the alignment with the planet and the shift that we're going through in consciousness and energy.
Yes. Well, I usually do channeling. If I get asked a question, I'm answering from a channel point of view. So that's a raised consciousness in another world. And we have to record it because it's easy to forget. Because we're coming back down into a lowered consciousness, if you like. The thing is, everybody can get answers, and they need to feel, even if they don't receive in words. We're all sentient beings, so we have a feeling. That is the blessedness of being human, or even on this planet, because all the animals, the birds and the insects, I think, all have feelings. So it's how you feel about something, because it's this aspect of us that's overseeing us all the time while we're here. So as I said, we're an aspect to who we really are. So if we think about that, you can actually get the feeling about something. If somebody says something that feels right, doesn't feel right, we'll put it on a shelf, just let it go. And it probably comes back again later in a different way. And you think, oh, that's what that meant. It does fit. And quite often, so many things do fit, even though I've heard heated arguments. And they've both been saying the same thing, but just in a different way, and haven't realized they were saying the same thing. That's all.
Yeah.
So with you asking me a question, our focus needs to be on the planet, because we're here to hold a new energy on this planet as it raises, right? And so thoughts of wanting to leave, if you're really honest with yourself, you find you're wasting your time, because you're already left. You're already in other worlds. We're, as I said, we're not just, but we are an aspect. Yeah. And it's not easy living here, but it can be very joyful and happy, and a wonderful experience as well. Agreed. But I can assure you, if you left, you'd regret going, because you realized you've made an agreement before you came. And that's in your soul. It's written. It's actually been like a passport that's given to you, or even a handshake, that this is why you're going. And then there's a story put together, who you would meet and who you would come, and if there's issues that need to be, what should I say, healed. Those type of things, or even aspects that you used to do in another time or another life, that you can bring into this life and do it at the same time and use that for the good, that sort of thing, right? So, and that means we're sort of all linked with other worlds all the time because we've been to many other places.
Mm-hmm.
I remind everyone that our God self is eternal. And so there's no time or distance at all. It's past, present, and future all at once. Mm-hmm. And we can tap into it from there. That is actually consciousness. And even scientists are having a look at, with respect to scientists, they're looking and realizing there's more to consciousness than just the brain, that we do have other ways of communicating and everything else on this planet. In fact, we've probably got a little bit of everything on the planet because it's all come from somewhere else in the first place. Mm-hmm. So that energy is linking us with everything, right? And it's like you could think about a little nut or a seed falling from a plant, and it has intelligence. It knows what it's got to grow back into. Mm-hmm. And it does keep growing. Everything's moving all the time. So that's a consciousness. You might, how can you, if you could just, you think about a consciousness just to the brain, well, that's a mistake. Your brain does have a consciousness, of course it does, and so does your earth body, but your light body does too. And so, and so does that stone I told you I sat with. So, it holds a record, and you could call it records all over the place if you like. So to answer a question, a limited question, when I say limited, it's something I think you need to actually feel for yourself, because you can go, you put your brain to sleep like a computer, and then raise your eyes up under your closed eyelids, and connect above the world, connect to above the atmosphere of our planet into the world of light. Now that is where you connect to your ancestors, or your the wise ones, or your ancestors, as I said, or your God self, or oversoul more than anything, but God self as well. And that's where you can get answers, even if you don't get it spelled out in a word or whatever. It's you still get a feeling about something. But the main thing is recognizing that you're here to earth this new energy that's coming onto planet. And that's here to help raise and go back to what the planet was really meant to be in the first place, and which it was created as the Garden of Eden by the people from Andromeda, from the hierarchy of Andromeda. And because there could be more behind that too, but this is as far as what they're saying for general understanding. And so we need to heal quite a bit, really. And we don't have to do or think anything. We just hold the energy, because the new energy heals it when it comes in.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so we have love and acceptance, I think, more than anything, and not worry about the dark side, because we know that exists. But we're I said this before, we're electromagnetic beings, and we'll attract as soon as what we think. So we need to be careful about what we think.
Mm-hmm. It's been highlighting our own consciousness to our thoughts and our emotions, and our light and our shadow. It's by being conscious of it, you can redirect and keep in that alignment.
Yes, absolutely. And that's part of being a creator too, because it is exactly, you're helping to create and become into alignment with yourself, as well as the suns and everything else that follows from that.
Yeah, right.
It's actually easy. You don't have to make hard work of it at all. It's just the understanding is the link, and the knowing, and then the discipline, self-discipline.
Yeah. And I love what you said, because I often say to people, we all have a purpose being here. Like, it's very hard to get a body. I believe that it's a prized possession to have a body on Earth at this time. And a lot of people are searching for these big purposes, missions, and we all have them, and they're multifaceted. But I say, besides anything that you do in the physical, just walking around anchoring in this energy is the most important thing, and then whatever else is an extension of that. So
you're right on, Alicia, definitely. And any other things, then because you're working consciously with the Oversoul, come God Self, that aspect, or not aspect, that knowledge and understanding can be given to you.
Yes.
Because we have free will here.
Yes.
That means we can stuff up if we want to, or we can listen to our Oversoul, who's very willing to connect to us. But because of universal laws and layers of consciousness, it just can't jump in without knowing or understanding that we ask and we want to know and we're willing to work with our Oversoul.
Yes.
Right? So that's important, actually, to understand that, because people say, why doesn't God fix this? Why doesn't God fix? Well, God will. We ask them. We have to, because what man has done on this earth, man has to undo. And that's part of the, what can I say, free will.
Yes. Yeah.
It's all a reason, and it's nothing to do with judgment. It's to do with like attracting like, L-I-K-E, like, and also, as I've said that, it's light attracting light also.
Light,
as a consciousness.
I picked that up as soon as you said it. I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's lovely.
So you kind of mentioned a couple of things before. You mentioned about the galactic wars and healing that, and I think that that's something that we do have those memories. I know that I have quite traumatic memories that I've had to go through and heal. And that is part of this process of becoming more light, if you want to put it in that way. But you also mentioned about Uluru and being an asteroid. And I know we've had some pretty in-depth conversations around that, but did you want to talk about that a little bit more? Because that may be a new concept for some people that they might not understand.
Yes, well, as I said, Alcheringa has said there's more to the story of what he's given us as far as Uluru being an asteroid, and he also has given us for scientists want to read it, clues to scientifically proving that it is an asteroid right in the middle of Australia. And there's articles that have been written. He sat beside me. I couldn't see him, but he sat beside me and I could feel his presence, and I could hear easily. And he was advising me to search on the net, and that led to what the clues were he was talking about. And then also at the same time, he was giving me in images, which I wouldn't say I was necessarily very clairvoyant, but he was giving, when it's needed, he was giving it to me. And so there's quite a number of articles there. It's all under the story of Uluru and its impact crater. And so I think people, with an open mind, they could imagine, yes, it definitely is. And it was filled in millions of years later, properly, when fall of Atlantis time, which is only about 10 or 12,000 years ago. Yes. Time when talked about from the star worlds can be quite different to what we as measured here. So if we just talk about a long time and a shorter time, but get some clues how the differences. But the Earth, as I said, was so shaken up so badly when it fell, and that is in the when is it in? It's in that first diary I wrote, but I've included that in this part 2 in the Star Lady book. So then it's mainly around the summary of the 2 different major effects that took place on this earth that need to be healed and still healing, still adjusting. And it is going back to why it was planned in the first place. And
I was about to say, if you could explain that. I find that really interesting.
The planet Earth actually was agreed to be materialized or created to replace another one that had actually been attacked in Star Wars. I don't know the full story there. I've got to make sure I've got the right details. I've got clues, but I don't want to say the words exactly, because which I'm researching. But I will. I'm doing it on a PowerPoint, so I'll share that after I've given the talk in December. And I hope I've got the story together. But it's only an overview of it. But there was a war, and strangely, my husband, John, he actually remembered being Leonine, from the Leonine race. That was totally spontaneous. I mean, he's a businessman with a tie and, you know, and he'd gone across the property at Alcheringa where we lived at the time in a friend's little plane. And at the very time he said, I felt I was a lion. He said, I looked at my hands and they were paws. And he loves cats.
Well, there you go.
So paws. And I thought, hang on, what's going on here? So I said, John, talk to me more about it. And I started recording. So, and I find too, with people that have got past life memories in other worlds, it seems to be easier to slip from one memory into another, although they all have a beginning, a middle, and an end, the same as we do here. But they're easier. They're not. It's not quite so complicated as here on our human race experience. So he was hopping from one, and I realised that he remembered the huge ship, mothership, being exploded and how they had come 5 years later to say, well, there's been a war there too. But that was part of what Alcheringa is wanting me to understand, that there was a war. And when there's a war, and the reading that my husband gave in the memory of being a Leonine, and I've got an image for that, is he talked about using what you call, like meteors, and throwing those things around. It's like real stuff, you know, sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
And I've never watched a lot of that because I don't want to be influenced with channeling. I'd rather just get it straight from upstairs, which I'm getting now. And sure enough, there's these meteors being tossed around like bombs, and you know, and the science, of course, is far more advanced, I think, even now than it was then in another time. When this is for Uluru time, it was about 65 million years ago, something like that. And they were to kill the dinosaurs. But it wasn't that easily done, actually, just from one asteroid coming, although it did have a tail of meteorites. But they actually had to enter a war because there was fighting from the cold-blooded star people that had taken over the planet, and they felt it belonged to them, but it didn't. It did not. So they had to. So they put up a fight, and there was a war. And so he was talking about these huge things. He even talked about a planetoid, and I've asked him since, just recently actually, what's a planetoid, and he couldn't remember actually. So I asked Alcheringa, and he said, well, actually, it's part of the previous planet that was exploded and completely destroyed, which was the Earth planet was replaced because it needs to have the same cycle in our solar system, so it wouldn't get out of alignment, right?
That makes so much sense to me. It just, wow.
So the asteroid that we call the asteroid belt is, in their language, a planetoid belt because it's part of the previous planet.
Oh my goodness! You have once again just.
This is part of what's coming out and what I will have on my PowerPoint. And there's other things too. When they used, what did he call it? Laser beams. Well, we thought about laser guns, but this is a laser beam, which is much more dangerous and focused from a distance. Mm-hmm. Well, it could, as he said, and it's in there, there's memory, it's in here. We had to put it in. It was just too good not to put it in. It actually petrified instantly animal or bird or human, but there were humans didn't exist. But I believe the the so-called giants did. And so I've got pictures of just looking like that, rocks that just looked like giants or petrified dinosaurs. It's quite extraordinary, quite extraordinary. So, but they call them paranoia. That means you could see images in something. You know, it's like imagination. But no, as soon as I saw it, I thought, hang on, there's something going on. And I knew Alcheringa wanted to tell me. So I used somebody else, bless her, to put them, share them with me, which I recognised straight away. And so we've got more to talk about for that too, because it also happened so that it was going on around the planet itself. There was different, what can I say, bombings to these huge rocks, and the rocks still exist. And scientists think they're just rocks, but they came from there during that war. And how can you prove it? How can you prove it's a war? You might be able to prove something from someone that's been petrified. That's possible.
Yeah.
But it'd be heartbreaking to break it all up, actually, to see. I don't know. And I don't know even if it'd still say the same way, you know, as it was a live being, whether that'd still say the same if it had been petrified. It's a bit like putting something on ice and it changes, you know, it just frozen, everything's frozen, yeah. No life. Anyway, I don't know about all that, but I have to write.
It's interesting to have these conversations in Samaya. I mean, we don't know actual facts, but I think in sharing information, you sort of get more insight more and more as the stories have unfolded for you over many, many years. And I know that you're presenting at this conference in December. So I'll probably try and put the links below if people can find the details of that.
Yes, actually, because there's none of the overseas speakers are able to come now. But
so it'll be live streamed then?
Sorry?
Will it be live streamed?
Yes, I was just going to say that. Yes, they're going to live stream it. And it'll be available to people that can't get there even from Australia.
Yes.
You know, of course, different borders are closing. We don't know what's going to happen exactly. So you still be able to keep up with it. In actual fact, there's dreaming stories also from the clever people. And they're not really wanting a lot of visitors to go there. Yeah. So for one reason or another, and I understand that totally. So there is that. What I am saying is that Stephen and Evan Strong have got a lot to say from a scientific point of view about the various things that I've been check out too, but they're coming from a science, trying to prove things from a scientific point of view. And I did. Yes,
I was going to bring that up because I'm very fascinated by the magic box and the work of Stephen Evan Strong, and I know that's been a bit of a buzz within the spiritual communities this year. Have you got any more to share about that from your?
It's not a funny thing. I've been so busy and so caught up with having to do this, that, and the other so much. I haven't had a chance, but it's on my notebook to say, asked Alcheringa about the magic box. and I keep thinking Pandora's box. Well, that often refers to a lot of things. But it's interesting. I think, you know, what on earth are they saying? Because a lot of the things are said in a different way, but symbolically, it comes out, you know, when Alcheringa tells me things, sometimes it's the same thing. It's not quite said the same way. So I'll be interested to hear what I'm saying, but I'm sorry, I can't say anything about
it. No, that's fine.
That's new to me. I haven't heard that one. I have heard like them saying that there was a ceremony that was never finished for Uluru. And I know now that was what it was all about when the war came, and it was all this upside down going on, destroying dinosaurs, etc. That ceremony hadn't been finished because it wasn't sanctified, if you like, you know, because what can I say? The hierarchy didn't want to kill people or kill anything, but they did want the planet to stay as it was the big plan, they called it, the big plan. And that was for it to be in our corner, very dark corner. There's the arm of our galaxy, of the Milky Way. You know, our Earth is shows on there as right at the edge. And so it needed more divine light. And that's why they wanted to lift the energy there, because of the races that were around it were cold-blooded. Makes sense. And so they didn't have experience of being what it was like to feel warm. They also didn't know what it was like to feel hurt either. You know, they couldn't, and also they were created without the source, the blessing of the source. That's another thing. So that's what they were trying to help. And that's why we're also here. When we came with our soul agreement, we all agreed to help one another. And that didn't matter where we had come from. We were in an earth body at this time with a soul and a light body. And if they were cold-blooded, no problem. They'd start to feel what it was like to be cut, what it felt like to be hurt, what it felt like to love, and compassion started to create in them. And they'd experience and they'd feel and know what it was like for another, which is what it's all about. You know, when we talk about cold-blooded people, that's something coming from way back, that we know there are people that can't relate to what it's like to be suffering, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's a tough life here as well. But we are all here to help one another.
You just articulate that so beautifully. I've never heard it put in that way before, but it's just made me sort of, I don't know what it's done to me. I don't even know how to put it into words, but it just, as you said, it connects the dots. It makes things make more sense.
Yeah.
And I know that you have said to me also about, you know, there was ceremonies from way back that haven't been completed, and it does, there's something that deeply resonates within me when you say that. There's like an air of anticipation or excitement, and whether that means that it's now or, you know, I think what I'm trying to say is time is irrelevant. You know, every day we're receiving more cosmic energies, and yes, I do believe that there are junction points, but you know, it's every day that makes the difference, isn't it? It's every day consciously working with these energies to.
Yes, Alicia, definitely. Yeah, it's lovely, love. You are on the right path for sure, and I respect what you do also in helping to get all that information out. And of course, in the long time, we have what they call a level playing field, meaning we get to a layer of consciousness. Have you heard this one? Where everybody is raised in consciousness that's on the planet, be they cold-blooded or warm-blooded people. They are raised to a point where they're all experiencing that same frequency and vibration of energy, which just automatically raises their thinking and the way they behave. And they would never dream of raising a weapon to sort out a problem. And people will care about one another and respect one another. And that's called the golden age. And that's what the level playing field's about. We're going to that. But, and not but at all, but also the thing that's on this planet and why shouldn't be interrupted too much. This is the planet itself in its earth form. They talk about song lines. There's not much difference from ley lines or describing as bloodlines, if you like, within the earth. And one of the biggest ones is crystal. Crystal has a vibration and a frequency that raises. It's no coincidence that scientists use crystal to do research out in the universe.
Yeah.
And the same, you know, when we first started with radio, I don't know if you knew, there was a crystal radio.
I know that it's used in phones and all sorts of technologies.
Yeah, everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's actually liquid, and it's actually ingested by us in some ways through food as well, and water. But crystal, Christ, Christos, Christ is a title. Christos means Christ is one that's actually matching that energy and can heal and materialize, and what else? Do all those creative things that we find magic, or we think that it's just, you know, it's miracle stuff. But there's a reason and a purpose from all of that. And so, and a lot of the Asians knew it too before Atlantis went down. And we went back to surviving in caves because that was about the only place you could live safely for quite a long time. That's actually in that diary that I talk about in part 2 of Star Lady. All that diary, this one.
I'm thinking to myself, because I've got the afternoon off, so I'm thinking, oh, which one am I going to pick up? Because I've got Star Lady on my book, on my phone, the book on my phone, but I've got that one. I'm like, oh, I think I might be trying to read both at the same time.
Well, actually, this is the first one. They gave me this one, the first one, and then it really locked into this one, that story of the creation of human, light man.
Yeah.
And of course, I've been given more information too as well. I think I've put it, I can't remember now, I think I've put it in here. It was raised again about 300,000 years ago when Atlanteans came to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And they were Venusians, but there were a few other stuff people. They just used to come and go easily because the net around our planet, you can't see it, but it's there to hold our atmosphere within, right? Otherwise, it just all float off or disassemble. It has to have something to hold it there. And, you know, now it's very hard to get in and out from outer space to the Earth's atmosphere. They have to go through fire and lose all connection with NASA, for instance. I don't know how long it is. I've forgotten now. It's 3 minutes or 10 minutes, something like that. It's quite a while. And but that's loosening. And the more the new energy is coming in, the net is loosening because it was tightened when Atlantis went down. The Earth was in such a crazy disarray. They had to do something, so they tightened that net to stop all that disarray going out into our what can I say? Our
atmosphere, solar system,
into other worlds, into our and all that sort of stuff. It would have messed up everything. Really. Interfered with it. Yeah. A solar system, I'm trying to think of. Solar system is our immediate thing. Yeah. So, and now it's being loosened. So when they talk about stargates, they mean where the net crosses over. So you've got that cross. That's the gate, the stargate. So they're releasing, meaning the hierarchy and the ones helping us, the higher or the raised consciousness into this atmosphere, which then is picked up by whoever is ready or whoever is willing to accept it and embrace it and imbibe it into themselves. And that's happening. And the same with the planet as well. And that's actually lifting us back to where the great plan began, which was this Garden of Eden. There was no doubt about that. Eden, I think, really was more like a sound. It's like E, like that, something like that to do. I don't know and understand enough about all that, but I think perhaps I'm not supposed to because it becomes too complicated.
Right? There's so much information and it's
I think I'm just to talk just overview things. That's stuff.
Well, you're certainly amazing at connecting the dots and giving real heart-centered perspective to human history. And I think why it's so important, people, I mean, I'm sure people understand this, but if you don't, you know, for me anyway, we have to understand where we've come from to understand where we're going into the golden age, because it is a full cycle. And so if we can understand where we were, you know, how I look at where we were, the descension process, and then, you know, the ascension process to come back full swing.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
It helps us in our own individual process. It helps us with more compassion for others. It just, and I think the way that you share the insights and the stories is in such a beautiful, articulate way. I mean, you really do have a gift, and the world is just a much better place to have you and your gift in it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you. I could say I came from, this has only just been given me recently, that I have come as a soul. But there's 144,000 of us that have come onto this planet. So there's a lot out there, and they all have different roles, different missions, but they've all come voluntarily, actually. They didn't have to come. Not that anyone has to come, but there's always a feeling, I think, as you say, heart-centered. This is the thing. This is the most important thing, actually, in connecting to our earth body, our human body, is that it's connected immediately to our soul consciousness, which is part of our brain system, if you like. And with that connecting, it's like a doorway that enters into, immediately goes to our oversoul, or God self. We actually have that energy there. So when it's time for the body to go back to earth, in other words, time for us to leave, it just pulls away. And our earth body dies, it stops. Because that's what's keeping us alive all the time. It's what's keeping our automatic heart beating all the time, and our breathing and all our body functions. So we don't have to worry about that. Or even breathing, same thing. It's all automatic. So we're being looked after all the time. And but when we leave in the heart, the earth body, the brain goes back to earth, but the soul and the light body that we have moves back to where it's come from in the first place, where it first came into our earth body. Then it's here for a reason and a purpose, and then it goes back home. And it probably start another story somewhere else.
No, it's beautiful, and I think that that's a really nice message to put on this video, because I've heard just in the last few days so many people who are connected to me who are experiencing the loss of a loved one at this time. And so I, for me personally, I've always found it easier to understand looking at it from the soul perspective. And I mean, as you would know, because I know that you have contact with people who you know who have transitioned, and how they do come back and they play jokes and they play pranks, and they're still very much a part.
Yes, that's right. Yes, exactly. Yes. See, people will even say, even if they don't believe these things, or when I say that, it's not a belief, it's a knowing. But for some people, it has to be a belief or proof.
Yes.
But they'll still say something like, oh, that's Uncle Jack coming. He always used to come around when we had a barbecue, and he'd drink beer out of that very same glass that bird's doing. And I hear this story and I say, well, it is Uncle, whatever they said, Uncle Jack or whatever it was.
Yeah.
No, you know, they sort of just can't get their head around. So, okay. But
I love that.
It is real. It's not like they've become the bird, but they're manipulating the bird because it's easy with energy to do these things.
Yeah.
You know, just, it's lovely. It's lovely. So that's consciousness, right? So that's what it's all about. And there's really no need to fear. And I think also if we become aware of all, perhaps we have not consciously, but had not good lives in the past, and we've got an issue about God and who God is, well, then we need to work that out and heal that, and correct it also, as far as being to do with hell and God, or if you're not good, you're going to go to hell, and which is all nonsense. It's not true. It's actually when you leave, and it's no coincidence that when you leave, there's a funeral or there's prayers go out for people that have gone or just moved. It helps them to get past that lower astral, which is just the immediate next world.
Yes.
With a lot of nonsense that does go on. So get past that and into the world of light. And it's a straight journey back home. And it's safe and it's beautiful. And it's nothing to be afraid of at all, I can assure you.
Wow, thank you for that. So many things have connected for me in some of the experiences and conversations I've had in the last week. And it's just beautiful to have that. I don't know, I get visuals every time you speak and I get a bit lost in it. So
Yes.
Well, thank you once again, Valerie. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share that sort of comes to mind for this time round that you feel that people might need to hear, perhaps at this time? Because I know that it's very chaotic. It can be a bit chaotic out there for some people. And, you know, we are moving towards December solstice and beyond. What's the most important thing that people can do to support themselves right now?
Well, I think I would say prayer. Prayer is much stronger than people realize. People will think it's connected to religion, and yes, it is, but prayer is also the connection we have with thoughts. And that's the same as telepathic communication. Mm-hmm. So we're actually putting out thoughts that have no restrictions from time or distance. And for that reason, they can also help to change the energy of a thought, or any energy that you think about, has a way of moving and changing or influencing people. So you're not trying to take over people, but if you're coming from a source of just love and kindness and wanting everyone to understand who they really are and why they're here, and also that there is no need to be afraid, that they can conquer everything that they're confronted with and know that their God self is within their heart. And there's no need to be afraid of God, because God has been portrayed in all sorts of ways, but it's actually an electromagnetic energy force that is of consciousness of love, right? So anyone that goes there becomes that. You can't go there without being that, right? So if you think that way, you go there. And if you think telepathically or with a prayer for someone, but only for their good, that will help them. It will truly help them. Yeah. Might not, you know, I mean, I wouldn't suggest you start saying how this person should have this or that or whatever. It's not like that. Everybody's an individual and they all have a God self or creator self. Mm-hmm. So you just think of them and send love and best wishes, blessings for them. Yes. All that will help clear the energy field. That's the thing we need to do every day, is clear our energy field. That's important.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I always call it energy hygiene. Very important.
Yes. Yeah. But it's not dealt with, I'm sure, with fear, or you have to protect yourself. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with just being sensible, and also knowing that when you clear with this absolute energy from the source of God or love, if you like, or creator, clear with that energy field, nothing can harm you, because that's the strongest. You are the strongest light.
Yeah. I love that.
It's lovely.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you once again. Thank you everyone for watching, and until next time, just sending massive amount of love to you all. So thank you so much, Valerie.
Thank you for sending love to everyone also. God bless.